These are so big that they don't even fit in the frame. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing this 100 count of watercolors that I got at Five Below. Like the name suggests, I paid $5 US for these, which is a steal because this palette has 100 different paints and a brush. I'm going to be reviewing these based on my own score point system. There are going to be 4 categories, with 5 being the maximum amount of points that you can score in each. That may sound a bit confusing, but when I get into the actual reviewing, I promise you will understand. The categories are affordability, quantity, quality, and workability. So enough yapping, let me get into the actual review. Right off the bat, I noticed that the second color had some sort of weird granulation going on. It wasn't super bad, so I wasn't too concerned about it, which did come to bite me in the butt later. But anyways, I expected for the paints to be very chalky, and I was right. Most cheaper watercolors are. This can be avoided by not loading your brush up on the pigment, but then you run into another problem, which is lack of pigment. So if I wanted the colors to be saturated and, vibrant, I would have to load my brush up on the color. But then if I did that, the paint would lay on so thick that it would become chalky and start flaking off. So that was red flag number 2. Here I'm showing how thirsty the paints were. I would have to use an absurd amount of water to get any paint to come off on my brush. Like whenever I would dip it in the water and then dip it in the paint, it just felt like the paints were just soaking up every last bit of water that I put on them. And I feel like that would make me scrape into the pan more. And like I said earlier, that would make it so my brush was loaded with the pigment, and then it would be chalky. It's just a continuous endless cycle of me struggling with these problems. One little positive note that I will add is that even though a lot of other bigger watercolor palettes include a lot of vibrant colors, I like that this one included a lot of desaturated colors, neutrals, and browns. This paint had some weird pigment separation going on. I don't really know, but I thought it was weird, so I'm showing you guys. I actually really like a lot of the purple and the blue shades. I feel like there was a lot of variety with those, and I thought they were really pretty because I feel like I'm always lacking pastel colors in my watercolor palettes. Sorry that this is out of frame, but here I'm swatching the darkest colors, like the black. The black was surprisingly really pigmented, which I was really shocked about because a lot of low quality palettes have a very sheer black, but this one didn't. And here is the final swatch sheet. As you can see, they dry awful. And I was mentally preparing myself for what was coming next. And here's what the palette looks like. There's some weird texture on the paints themselves. I don't even know how to explain it, but here you can see it for yourself. This is where everything goes downhill. I sketched this piece off camera. I just found a reference on Pinterest and altered a couple things, and things were going smooth. I started off with a base tone, like I normally do. I go over the whole page with just a a nice wash of color, and I dabbed off their faces with a paper towel just so they could have lighter skin tones, and then I went in with the blushing, and this was okay. I did notice that it was kind of difficult to layer the blush on top after I had done the initial little layer. So then I started on the hair, and obviously with this really deep color I had to really dig my brush into the pan to get the color off, and that made this very chalky. And like, you'll see me later use a sheet that I got with my Ohuhu markers, which is basically just like wax paper or like parchment paper or whatever, to keep from rubbing my hand in it, because if I rubbed my hand over this section after it had dried, mind you, it would come off on my hands. So yeah, it was very like dusty on the paper. So like right now, I don't think I show it, but like my hand and like my wrist area were stained, and I think some of it actually smudged onto other places on the paper as well. I tried to go in with like some purple shadows, which is what I normally do in like my digital art, and normally it works traditionally too if you go in with a very thin layer, and I did, but this just muddied her whole face on the right, and I was kind of scared about that. But I'm gonna go in with color pencils and try and fix it. The color pencils did not fix it, but I'll just go ahead and let this play, and I'll give my thoughts at the end. Okay, I lied. I'm back again because I forgot that I wanted to talk about this now. When I was using the colored pencils on top of these paints, the colored pencils were like scraping up layers of paint, so it would create like a dust pile. I don't know if that makes any sense, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it was bad, and this was a struggle, and I really tried to make this piece work and salvage this as much as possible, but one, I wasn't happy with the initial sketch, and two, this just looked awful. It was awful. Here I feel like you can see what I mean really well. Like, look on the hair. That is not the paper coming up, and I'm not even pressing that hard. That is just the watercolors coming up. I have never had this happen to me before with any of my other watercolor palettes, so I was kind of stunned on what to do. Here is the final piece. I am really unhappy with it, so I decided to do another piece. I sketched this off camera. I originally did a kind of mock-up in Procreate, and then I just traced it onto a piece of paper using my iPad as a light box. I altered the face a bit because I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I'm using the same process, but I'm just trying to go in a lot lighter this time. I don't know why the lighting just changed. That was weird. Anyways, going in with the blush on this first layer here, building up the blush. And then I go in with a darker skin tone. Well, like the base for the darker skin tone that I'm going to do, which looked really bad. And I was scared that I had already ruined this, but I just power through. This whole video is just me powering through this because I really almost scrapped this video because of how frustrated I was, which I don't even know why I'm complaining because I set myself up for this. I signed up for this, but I always go into Five Below and I look at their art section and I'm like, wow. And I always want to try their things, but never again will I buy paints from there. Ever again. And I am not like a cheap art supply hater. Most of my stuff is cheap or stuff that I've just like found or thrifted. So I don't want to like dog on people who buy their art supplies. And if it works for you, that's great. But this is just my experience that this, for me personally, is unusable. Let's go ahead and start the ranking. So the first category, affordability. Obviously, I'm going to give this the maximum amount of points for affordability. $5 for 100 colors and a brush, which I did use. And little side note, I think the brush is the best part of this whole set. Anyways, I give it 5 for affordability. Next, quantity. I give it a 5 for quantity. There are so many different color options for you to use. I think there is a really wide variety. You have cool tones, you have a lot of warm tones, skin tones, you have desaturated colors, saturated colors. I like that. 5 for quantity. Quality, I give it a 1.
I want to give you a 0, but that's not possible. So I give you a 1.
And for the last category, workability, I give them a 2 out of 5. Now what I mean by workability, I mean like working with my colored pencils and just how they feel. 2 out of 5. They were awful. They do not work well with colored pencils, but they work well enough to where I managed to salvage this painting with the colored pencils. This brings our grand total of points to 13 points, which isn't great considering the max that this could be is 20. Now, I would just like to clarify something. I know in my, what video was that? My tips for beginner artist video that I said art supplies do not matter. And they don't. I still ended up creating something that I am happy with the product that I've been hating on this entire time. So that just goes to show that you can still make stuff with, you know, even the crappiest of the crap. I feel like I'm being a bit too harsh, but I'm just saying my truth, you know. I don't want you guys to like be conned by the Five Below art section like I was. Every single time I go in Five Below, I am always tempted to pick up a bunch of art supplies from their huge art supply section, especially their watercolor palettes, because they're always so big and the packaging is really cool and the paints look so vibrant and pretty. But after this, now I know not to trust Five Below ever again. As always, the colored pencils come in to save the day. I really do not think I could have done this without the colored pencils. I know a lot of people just use straight up watercolors and paint like amazing, really intricate, beautiful things, but I am just not one of those people. I do not have the skill set for that. So despite all the trials and tribulations I have faced, this actually came out really cute. The video is almost done now. I'm just adding the final touches and then I'll do the glamour shots. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more of my content, please subscribe. And as always, you can follow me over on my Instagram for more of my content at Echo Isn't Okay. And I will see you guys next time.